I hope you don't have that part in. The Richland County Historic Preservation Committee, dated Wednesday, February 26th. It's 4:03, and as the chair, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Approval of the minutes. As it's listed, I'm going to ask that we waive those minutes because we have no formally typed minutes from the August meeting. And along with that, I think anybody that's been present has been keeping notes, but we haven't submitted formal minutes. Is that unreasonable to ask?
No, so move to
Yeah.
waive them. Yeah.
Move to waive them, and a second, and with the idea that we cannot take any action, we still can meet. On the agenda, we have 5 items. The primary one is the ceremony, and this is the, if you will, draft meeting to say, let's put something on paper. I'd like to submit it to the mayor. I'd like to get input so that when we meet next, we're ready for when the actual Vernon Thompson sign is prepared. Does that sound good? To mention, Ms. Tepley, if you wouldn't mind bringing Mr. Shannon and I up to date along with whoever would like to view this, the status of the sign itself.
Sure, thank you, Chair. I will just state that we received an email from the, I was just looking for that email.
I have it on my phone, yes.
From the company who actually produces the sign, and they just were asking, you know, for approval of what they received as stated. Everything was fine, so that went forth, and that's what it's at. So it's about a 6 to 8 month time frame. I'm hoping it's more on the 6th month or even sooner that it would actually be produced. It will be shipped here. Ashley Oliphant, administrator, is the person who's on the contract, so it will be shipped here.
Questions, Mr. Shannon?
I wasn't at the August meeting, and I'm wondering the cost and the how it's being
Paid for. That's an excellent. Now I'll go back to Ms. Tepley because she's been actively involved in that.
Yes. So the cost was roughly, I'm sorry that I don't have that email right in front of me. I was not.
It was $50 over our proposed number. I remember that. Was that because of the extra verbiage? Does that sound right?
No, it's actually about, so our original amount was $26.65.
Yes, yep.
And this is going to be $2,800 something, and that has to do with the photo that we added to it. So I was aware from our contact at Wisconsin Historic Preservation that it'd be roughly around $200 to add the photo. And we submitted ideas for the photo, and the one that they chose, actually Historic Preservation has the original of, which is
The bust?
the bust
Yeah.
from his obituary. Use the same photo. So, answer your questions?
You did. Full follow-up.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Oh, and how is it being paid for?
How is
Yeah, that was the last one. It is going to be paid for either from the line item for the Historic Society or the city. The city has already agreed to pay for it. Yeah.
So it's a budgeted.
Budgeted item. Once again, Ashley and I spoke. There isn't a good chain of record, I guess you would say, of this amount that's supposed to be in our coffers is roughly around $10,000. The information that I had, and I think the email was sent to you as well, is that it was originally earmarked for historic preservation of real estate. But it's definitely within our bylaws to have this sign as part of the, we're well within our means of having this sign produced. So because the record wasn't exactly clear, the city just said, it will either come from that line or the city will go.
That's why I asked the question. I wanted to clarify that for the record in a
Yes.
sense.
And for those that are viewing or will be viewing this, it will be a standard recognition of what would be the former governor. Also in the description, his involvement from the time he was mayor. And the verbiage it would include as well through his career as congressman. But obviously the key would be the fact that he served as governor for 2 years from 1958 to 1960. And throughout the state, I can mention 3 just in the area, with Tommy Thompson located in Elroy, John J. Blaine in Boscobel, and of course Jeremiah Ruskin by Viroqua. They've taken time to have signage produced in their community to recognize those former governors as well. And so that's a part of it.
Yes.
Anything else you can think of, Mr. Shannon?
That's it.
Please, then I'd like to continue and Russ and Karen, bounce things off of you. What I've done is I've created a draft of really just some things to talk about so that when we come together next, we can have a paper copy ahead of us. So verbal today, I'm expecting it to take no more than 10 to 15 minutes, so let's just shoot some ideas out there. And then staying within the boundary of the meeting, I don't want it to run more than 55 minutes. We'd have another 15 minutes for discussion in that regard. Right now, to my knowledge, we have no formal budget. So I'm operating on a zero budget idea. And I'll be approaching the mayor, he's forewarned now, Mr. Coppernall, that I'll be going to him personally and saying, so how would you like this handled? And leave him take the response to that regard. So I guess it's brainstorming more than anything. We've talked about it generally somewhat, but right now, I put 3 things down to begin with. The first is communication. Obviously, we talked, when we last met, it's important to involve local. And that would not be with standing to the radio station, WRCO, and of course, the newspaper with the Richland Observer, and as well as it's being videotaped to get it to the community in a message to them as well as a part of that the program might be of interest to be aired as a part of it. I put down that I would think we should make contacts to at least the 2 areas, north, west, and east, La Crosse and Madison. I put down that the State Journal, obviously, and the La Crosse Tribune are the newspaper sides of that. And as well, oh, welcome. Good to see you, young lady.
Since when is it 4 o'clock?
Can we explain?
Meeting time.
Yes,
I thought it was always 4:30.
it was, and there is a meeting following us, so they asked us to move. Oh, and grab an agenda if you'd like. Oh, you got one run off? Awesome.
She's prepared.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
And Susan had mentioned in her email, did you get that transmission?
I never got anything from you.
Oh my, so something's not going through for some reason.
I always have trouble with the Gmail for some reason.
Okay, do you have any other means other than the Gmail?
No,
We talked
I'm
about it at the
city.
August meeting. You have the city one? Do you-
that's the city. I'm city.
Okay. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
We waived the reading of the minutes. The idea being that today what we're doing, the first explanation. When Karen and I looked at doing this, I had sent 2 transmissions and they didn't get responded to. And with that being said, we wanted to be within the means of a proper notice. And so that's why we did not meet last week, Wednesday, which we had originally said, that we would meet the 3rd Wednesday of the
Okay,
month
yeah.
quarterly. So then she said, how about next Wednesday? I said, great, but there's a meeting that follows us directly. Is there any way you could be done early? I said, well, we keep our meetings to an hour. Is there any way you could start at 4 instead of 4:30? So to answer your question, I'd like to keep the meetings at 4:30. I'd like to keep them to the 3rd Wednesday of the quarterly. And I've even got 3 dates down propose that we put on our social calendars and would be publicized with the city as well.
Okay,
Does that help answer?
yes.
Welcome.
If I would read, because it says right up there.
I forgot until about 1:45, so. there you
Which
go.
is great. I'm glad you're here. And Susan, I knew she had said she was on a trip and going. With discretion, we have 3 member positions, and I would put it to the members present to contact. I would be glad to do that personal contact to see if those members are still interested without naming names. And if they are not, I'll be proposing that we look to fill those positions
Okay,
in the fall meeting, which would be again in August.
okay.
And why? Because I'm seeing this as becoming vibrant again to the point of at least taking on a role within the city. And there was that episode at the turn of the millennium, and for about, would you say 10 to 15 years, I think both of you would agree to that. And it was before my time, and certainly before your time, Karen, on the committee. But I'm seeing where we can do some things. And if anything, if I could be blunt, we need to preserve history. And I think everybody present, I'm speaking for you, but you have that interest of preserving the history.
And not change it to suit our,
I only mentioned we kept the agenda as it was. Karen, just to bring you up to speed, gave a little background of where we're at. We received the information in writing, was attached. Ms. Oliphant is basically the point person on that, and that's through the city. Mr. Shannon asked about the cost, and it's about 200 more than we planned for, but that is well within our monetary bounds, as we've been told. And so I guess we're going to beg for forgiveness rather than ask permission at this point going forward. What's on the agenda for number 1 is to just bounce some ideas off for the ceremony. So we could have, at the next time we meet, paper copy ahead of us. No, we need to cross this off. We need to, oh, we forgot this and we need to include that type setup.
do we have a date set for the need? For the
And we're waiting. The time frame, Ms. Tepley will tell you, was they gave us, what, 6 to 8 months?
6 to 8 months, and they suggested from historic preservation from the state, don't set your date until you have the plaque in hand.
I think that's a great quote, I guess, but, so that, and Karen, thank you for all your point on that too. Much appreciated. Just the simple fact that we know it started. And
Yes,
so, and that's great. The plaque, standard to what you'd find around southwest Wisconsin, I'm sure there are far more, but I mentioned Tommy Thompson, John J. Blaine, and Jeremiah Rusk. It will have his picture on it, which is why there's a $200 addition, but we thought that was very appropriate to be current. And it's that standard blue book type picture that you'd find. I think that would be a good way to put it. And the summary was a standard blue book type description that you'd have. I think it's far more important for the recognition than it is just for the plaque itself.
And the place we're gonna put it is by the community center?
We haven't given a specific coordinate, but that was what we were given in a discussion. So is it going to be in front of the community center? Is it going to be by the Ada James sign? We had talked about where it would be visible to many people.
yes, and the Parks Department has already approved location.
Oh, I did not know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, in fact,
Okay.
that's where this, I don't know, this kind of started there.
Yep.
So we just kind of picked it up after that. So it will be, if you drive to the community center right in front there, there's a sign, I believe, for
GTE.
GTE.
Mhm.
Okay.
GTE
And
and
it'll just be on the other side, so now it will have a nice banner.
Nice to know. I didn't know the specifics to that. Thank you.
Sure.
so
That's where they have that block, the rock or whatever.
Yeah, there is a rock there, so it will be in that area. Because there's a bench there and there's,
People
some
walk by on the
pavers.
sidewalk,
Yeah.
so it'll be on the left side of
and people will actually see it when they drive by
the right
too.
side?
Right side as you're looking at the community center.
Okay, okay.
But of course, we would do it from the parking lot
Yeah.
side.
They would see it as they're driving on 14 there.
Right.
They won't, they better not stop and drop traffic completely.
No,
I'll give you that one on number 2, because I stopped out, I'm jumping ahead. Forgive me for going out of order there. I stopped out and saw the highway commissioner, Mr. Elder. And this is a combination, I was killing 3 birds with 1 stone, talking about the Historical Society's doing signage. And he said, well, the biggest thing is not to have an accident, because you don't want to put it where they're going to stop in the middle of the road, that there's a legit example, Elephant Trunk Rock has a pull-off area.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's built in, and that would be ideal. I'm going to stick with the ceremony just to get some input. I've got a short list, and I guess I'd like to scribble some notes. I started off by talking about contacts, Madison, Lacrosse, obviously locals on the list too. I'd like to ask, is there anybody else that you should be thinking of from a press or publication type format? Is there something that we're overlooking there?
Are you gonna have the Ben Kelch from the local or?
And we're hoping that would be aired, and so we would offer the opportunity even to have it videotaped for record purposes.
What about Wisconsin Magazine, and what about the energy, what is it?
REC.
REC.
I think both of those are great ideas. I just wrote them down. I do need to mention with discretion, and the Richland County contact for the Wisconsin Magazine has just recently passed away. I'd like to pay credit to him, Mr. Mike McNair. And so I don't know if that position will be open, offered, or how they'll approach it, but I think, and I've been in contact with the editor himself.
Okay.
So I've just listed those 2. I think both of those are excellent. Any others that you can think of on a short list of, and we might come up with more, that's why we'll put it into a draft and then go from there. The second one I have on my list is dignitaries. And Ms. Hallett, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll bring you up to speed as we're going. Does that sound good?
That sounds
And first of all, it's good to see you guys.
Now we have a quorum.
We do have a quorum, so we can pass something about it. Susan, before and you're just arriving, sitting down, and we did get your email, and I acknowledge that
Okay,
at the
thank you.
beginning. As you bring that blue binder, I would like to, on agenda item number 4,
Okay.
just put you on the spot for just a moment then, but I can
Yes.
give you but I think we mentioned that in our August meeting as well, did I not?
Yes.
And we had a fun time looking at the available materials in the records room, is what I would call it. We're on item number 1. We're basically coming up with what would be a verbal brainstorming right now, Susan.
Okay.
Where we're bouncing ideas of what can we add. We'll then put it on paper so that the next time we meet, we'd have that. Karen gave a brief overview. We've got it going, but they gave us a 6 to 8 months, and can I quote you in saying, they said, don't do anything till you have it as far as setting a date. That's how they phrased it
Okay.
to Karen.
We're talking Vernon Township. Yeah, okay. Okay.
One last thing, and then please ask questions. Ms. Oliphant is the point person to either receive communications or if it comes, when it comes, that type of thing.
Okay.
But we're right now just generally talking about what will we have for a ceremony when it happens.
Okay.
We're at the community center, it's located there. I have a short list of dignitaries that I just scribbled down, but as I'm rambling through the list, as you think of someone else, I'd like to jot down more names. Obviously, I put Tommy Thompson as an invitation. I put down Dale Schultz as an invitation. I put down any current legislators, and that would not rule out Governor Evers and the representatives from this area that would be included. I included as well anybody from the Vernon Thompson family that might be around, might be available, not to rule out. And then I put down, because you have to have some point, where do you cut it off? Is I put down any former mayors that are still alive and any former legislators that are no longer serving from this area. The reason for that is obviously the mayor position is where the start was, the congressional position is where it concluded. There were a lot of things in between, but those are the two point posts that I have. Now that I verbalize that, what am I missing? What could we include as far as names?
Are you including national in that?
And I did not, and that's the question to be asked. Do you think we should?
Well, he was more state than anything else.
Agreed, and local is sad, but nobody knows who he is. They don't even know the spelling, which would be without the P, because they normally spell
Right,
Thompson with a
yeah.
P, but his last name was spelled without a P. And the family home is still here. Again, I'm jumping ahead, but I've got some ideas for what we could do, even to recognize that through the history room.
Yes, I did mention this project to Darrell Wentz, and he said that he would definitely like to be on the list of invites as he was mayor when he passed.
And that is an excellent example of who we would include. And not to rule out any other former mayors that are still in the community or around the area. The wild card for me, and I ran it by my local, Eric Olson, I said, do you know if any of the Thompson family is still around? And he kind of muttered that he'd check it out for me. So I'm going to hit him up. I hope we'll be seeing him again, because we're talking tonight, striking iron while it's there.
Yeah, that three-ring binder at the library in the history room is full of great information.
About the family, and about
the family.
your career.
Yeah. So,
We'll think of more, but I think Darrell Wentz would be a prime example, having served at the time of his death. I also had down for the program itself, what needed to be done. And I had 5 basic components. I had down as simple as this, but for an opening, to make sure, as you see behind me, that we have a flag outside. And I think it would be very appropriate to start off with the pledge as an opening. I'm going to be presumptuous here, but Karen, I mentioned it to you once before. I would like to address you as possibly the MC because of your involvement in this. Would you be willing to take that back? You want to think about it? Please do. The other, well, and that's an obvious one, but I also have on my list, because this whole thing centers around. And so if you would, and then Bob would be maybe that person to speaker for it. As saying that, I think that sounds very appropriate. By the way, Ron Fruit would be one of those invited because he is currently serving on the city council. And so I'm not trying to rule him out, nor the mayor, but the mayor would be on my list of the short list of who. I don't think we want 27 people speaking, but again,
No.
who would we have? The obvious one is the current mayor. I think if we have the current legislator from this area, to say a few words as well. And I know it's not, I'm again being presumptuous, where we will at times have a little document or a resolution to have read, that would be appropriate as well from the national level. I think we could go too high and too far there. Any others that you think of?
Do you think the state would do something like that?
I'm hoping so. And again, that will be through our contacts with the current legislators, that we would have that from the state level. He served as a speaker for a period, and Dale Schultz would be my go-to man in that regard as well. I was looking back in some of the papers, and Katie Morrison and Joanne Duran, and I started going down the list of, think of all these legislators that were around at the time that he was, although I know they aren't around here now, and I say that with due respect to those women, because they played a role in our state legislature as well. I have down a keynote. Now I put that down only because I'd like to see the program be only 20 to 30 minutes. I don't think that's outlandish to ask that. And I think maybe instead of putting keynote, maybe we could have key message. Now I'm playing on words here, but I see the whole program being, with due respect to Thompson, it's the unveiling where we'd actually have a pull off of the robe or the sheet or the mask, whatever's over the sign, and the unveiling, if you will, and then more of a photo op that would take place with that. So with the distinguished people that we would ask to speak, you know, to respectfully ask them to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes and nothing more than a brief message to be a part of it. So I'm not really looking at a keynote speaker. Feelings on that or any comments?
I think it's a very good idea because it can really get out of hand.
And so with all the dignitaries that we would have speaking, I think that will be more than a summation. Again, I say this, and he has not been contacted by me, but Bob Bellman really played a key role in this.
Oh, yes,
Well,
for
he brought
sure.
it to our-
He did, and I'm saying that with due respect that I'd like to see him be a part of it, and that's why I mentioned you as the MC, and him maybe giving the message about the importance of it. I also have on a post activity, we got the community center there, we also have nearby the Phoenix Center. And what I'd like to propose is that whenever we have it, at what time we have it, we would have a social time after. I'm not looking at having munchies or snacks or anything, but a place where we could have possibly a beverage and talk over things. The community center is there, but we're limited because I can see punch. The nice thing about the banquet hall at the Phoenix Center is that you could have drinks, go out and get something, come back in, and there's a little bit more of a liberal fluctuation of, you know, a reception to follow, if you will. Now, here's what I put down, and it goes to that 3-ring binder. If we do have some type of a social activity, to maybe have a little table of display that would have some pictures, that would have some things laid out from his career, from the history rooms filled. I'm looking over, and Russ, I'm going to ask you if you'd be willing to work with me if we do that, to set up that table of such things and going from there, if that sounds reasonable. Would you be willing to?
I would help you with it.
Yep.
If you have the info.
Yep, I would be more than willing to get the info if you could probably be more of the interior decorator and set something like that up. So I'll ask the question, what do you folks, and I'm not ruling out other locations, I gave those two because of obvious points of location to where we're doing it.
Easy access.
Easy access, excellent word. Do we want to have a preference, or do we want to wait and see?
My only question is, it's hard to get people to get in their cars and then go to another location.
I think that's a great point.
Or
Yep.
more
Right.
of the same.
To walk into the building is so much more convenient.
Yeah, because once they're in their car, they're like,
Now,
well,
let's
that
do
was
it.
good, I
Let's-
got.
Should I check with the community center to see about the availability of just, not, we don't have a date, you know, and obviously it's, whether it's there.
Yeah.
Would there be a charge, you know, because it is a city?
But it's also, we're a nonprofit. I know that we have
Doesn't-
nonprofit meetings there.
Well, they've changed it a little bit because the nonprofits used to get a break,
Yeah,
and I don't think they get a break anymore on the community center. They used to at one time.
we meet for free, but we meet once a month.
Oh, okay, so that could be different than a different
Then
kind
at
of
a
non.
social.
So my simple question, who's the go-to on that?
Well, I think Jody Meaden.
I'm gonna put Jody down. I will take the initiative just to run it by Jody, so that when we come together, we've got something on paper that can, and it's not to rule out other possibilities, we'd have a paper draft, so that input is great. The last thing I have on my short list, and please, I'm looking for more input, is the post-activity. And that's obviously to make sure that we have a press release that would be prior to the fact, but that could be then,
Then you just have to add the pictures to the.
that's absolutely correct. Yep, you're already ahead of me, Susan. And the idea being is, it's generic, it'll probably be short, be brief,
Yeah,
maybe with a little summation. But we also talked about one other thing, is with the schools, to get that communication to them. And that's from the elementary through the high school, here local, that they would receive that press release, and hopefully then, and the person I'm going to talk to is the district administrator, Steve Board, to see if that could be something that would be school-wide, district-wide, K-12 wide, that would go out as a preliminary And then the follow-up would be the post of, hopefully they'll actually make a field trip there, stop off, see the sign type thing as a class, as a group,
Yeah.
whatever that might be. So I have that as my short list of things. Is there some things I've overlooked? I didn't put down like having a band, play or anything. I think that's way too much over the top. But is there some things that were overlooked in our short list? Keep in mind, I would hope to hand you a paper draft at the meeting, but have one that I possibly would send out on a Google Doc. And I'm gonna keep trying to get it through. And even from Ashley, you're not receiving anything then.
I receive the meeting notice, and that's
You
it.
do.
But I don't receive anything else.
Okay, so then I'll see if I can tap into that. But a Google Doc attached, that would have this draft with it, of what it would be. If there aren't any other comments for number one, I'd like to move on to number two. It's going to be brief.
Can I grab a
Please,
agenda because
please do. It's the one on the left side too, so, and that's why we're meeting a half hour earlier.
I wondered about that.
And long story short is, we had not received a response back. I talked with Karen, what was that, probably about a month ago?
Oh, yeah, probably.
And then I sent out 2 emails and never heard back. And so then I came in, I said, I know we're looking at 48 hours. Well, it's actually 24, but I said, let's look at it. She goes, how about next week? So we're meeting actually the 4th. She said, there's another meeting. Could you meet at 4 o'clock so that you're done? I said, we don't plan on meeting longer than 55 minutes. And we've talked about that earlier. Simple. I stopped out to see Mr. Elder, asking him about the signage, and I gave him 3 examples, if he could just give me some input. First one I said is, all 4 of those locations, north, south, east, and west, on Highway 14 and Highway 80, have a Richland Center population sign. You won't be able to use that. He said, I'm telling you right up front, that isn't open for conversation. He said, you won't get that by, you won't get it through. My next question is what are the restrictions from the highway department for us putting up our own sign? And his recommendation, as we talked casually, then it was nothing formal, I said, I'm just throwing this by you, is we need to go through the city itself, and we'd have a far better chance of, on city property, getting a sign up.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm next going to find out what we can do there. But what I'm proposing very simply is if we were to take a 4x8 sign and quarter it. A 4x8 panel sign through the Historical Society, we've already done 2. I'm speaking very straightforward, and reason is certainly I'm not looking on putting it out for bids. I talked to Karen about this briefly. Let's go in with a proposal and say, okay, do we change it? I've had a need to complement B&L signs through the Richland County Historical Society. I have prices that I can give you in a draft form, and I know working with the 3 gentlemen there, very receptive to what would be. Then all it's going to take is a treated 4x8 post at each location, and the sign would go on. Now, why am I saying that? I'm going to be putting that into that draft of things with a ballpark figure that I'm sure we're within budget of, but it's a separate entity from what we're doing. And then, why do I say that? Because then we would get approval for that, even though I'm not asking for a motion or a second here. But I talked in a discretionary way. I said, what do you think? And you agreed with me. That we just go ahead and do it. And again, that would be very appropriate. Nothing more than what you would see. It was a blue sign in Elroy as you drove in from
Right.
80. You already know, you're all nodding, so you know what exactly,
yes, yes.
know exactly what I'm talking about. It said home of former governor, at the time it said governor, and then it said former governor as they switched it. And the colors I would propose is we would fit right in with the city plan. We went with the green and the tan, and it's a polyurethane. They CNC machine it. It looks very sharp. If you'd like to go to our website, with the Historical Society, you're gonna see the products
Okay.
that we're getting. That gives you a visual of it. And again, why am I saying that? I'd like to, at the next meeting, get a motion and a second to go ahead with a budgeted item, and I'd have a monetary attachment to it.
Okay.
Who would you have put it up?
I'm gonna go Save the City, and why that would be through the Parks and Recs or the Street Department, either or. And again, I'm kind of putting the onus on them to get it done. Karen,
Yeah,
is there?
and I'm willing to help with this. I'll go through Jason,
Oh, excellent,
through
sure,
Public Works, and
Yep.
he can direct it.
yep,
Because because it's 14 and 80, those are state highways, so I don't know if the DOT
right?
will need to be involved, and he will know.
And the follow-up to that, I thought it was a good point, is a lot of it is where are you putting it? Inside the city sign? Is it on city
Yeah.
property?
Yeah.
You know, so I'll let you talk to Jason on that
Yep,
one.
I will be happy to.
Number 3, Ms. Templey, I'm going to turn it over to you. You asked for that item on, and I thank you for it.
Sure.
A little update on the comprehensive plan.
Yes, as we all know, we've had comprehensive plans throughout the years. And as part of the planning commission, I'm working on, working on keeping the comprehensive plan alive and well. So I was going through there and found these items that pertain to the Historic Preservation Commission. Once again, this is just a handout at this point, but while there are only half a dozen paragraphs, there are some topics in here that could be quite involved. But, could be some future plans, future projects in any days and weeks and months to come. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that these are part of the city's comprehensive plan, and just see what we can do to move the projects forward.
I see on item number 2, or under heading number 2, the library. We've had the library already come in and speaking kindly for Ms. Pilla and for, I just went blank.
Crystal?
Thank you, Ms. Foley.
Crystal.
She's on a sabbatical, and I say that politely because I know she's enjoying herself, or at least she told me she was. That the library here, the Brewer, is more than willing to work with us in that regard.
Right.
And I think that if we can strike, while that's still available in an offer form,
Yes, and that one, seems to be one that's, what I guess we'll call the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
Because it has been talked about already. There's certainly a desire by the history room to, to do a little bit more pertaining to, more focus, I guess, in themes and whatnot, displaying the history of Richland. So.
one that isn't listed here with discretion I'd mention is tourism. And Marty Richards has played a role in that. Now, is that the greater Richland area, or would that be under a contact here?
Well, tourism definitely has many of the headings and projects in the comprehensive plan as well. So I just pulled out the historic preservation parts of the comprehensive plan, but as far as the one for, and several of these, whether it be the, the walking tours and that type of thing.
I was thinking of that exactly as you said it.
At a previous meeting, to see what we could do to put that in the forefront. And certainly tourism could help with that. So these are listed, excuse me, as part of how the Historic Preservation Commission can play a part, and then we can, reach out to tourism, or reach out to the library, or reach out to the city to help us move some of these topics forward.
First, thank you for this. Oh, and including the Richland County Historical Society, thank you.
Oh, yes.
And I had mentioned Lon Arbogast walking tours and the role that he played. We're looking even on our website to bring that back. And we had the chance after the last meeting to kind of go through and see what was there with the booklet on the historic preservation that dates back, what now, almost 2 decades? That would be a part of that. Go there. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, nothing more. I guess I would just like to offer that maybe we can keep this on the agenda
I think that's a very legitimate request.
as an item so that we
To
don't forget.
revisit it, right?
Yes,
I'm writing it right at the top.
yes. And as you can see, and I think this is what you were referring to, re-engage historic preservation and the county. And as you can see, responsible parties, library, historic
Yep.
committee, as well as tourism. So I think that's what you were referring to.
Questions or comments for Ms. Delphi? Susan, I forewarned you in a brief rush as you came in. You had showed us the binder last time.
Yes.
I mentioned it to Mr. Shannon.
Yes.
And we had had a chance to go through. And so ladies, since I've already approached Ms. Tepley and Mr. Shannon, I'd like to throw it out to you two ladies. If you'd be willing to get together and really put together a list for us.
We talked about that
Yes,
last time too.
yes. So I'm asking kindly, would you two, because you showed me things I'm going, ooh, I like that, and I had seen it in a few meetings. Would you two ladies be willing to get us a list so that when we get together at the next meeting, I don't want to call it a syllabus, maybe more of, here's what could go in the binder, and then,
You want a list of what's in the binder?
What's in it, or?
that'd be a perfect way to approach it, but I don't think we should limit it just to that. You know, so I think, Susan, I mentioned to you last time, there's probably some things, and you even agree, that are in the binder that aren't even relevant or needed.
They're not
now.
relevant.
Right.
There's some things that are and some things.
And
that
so
aren't.
before you ladies got here, we had with discretion talked, I'd like to see where every member has a binder now. And then we would create 2 other ones. One would be a master binder. And then as we were to get somebody new on, I think if you were here on the committee, you'd like to keep your binder. And that would be for your time and service. I think that's not unreasonable. But that we'd have a new binder for somebody new coming on that wouldn't take a whole reorchestration of everything that we'd have to go. Would you, please, Russ.
Excuse me.
No, you're allowed.
Interrupting.
You're not.
It seems like we, in the past, turned those in.
Yeah, we do.
Well, when you're done.
Yes.
So do you think that would be appropriate still, or do you like, how do you feel about that? I'm asking that because I'd like to keep you on for a long time. But in the same token, I could see when you'd say, okay, my time is up.
I purge much of my things, but you know that from a historical standpoint, from a historian, I keep way too much stuff.
Agreed.
So I have, this is one of my historic preservation.
I have satchels too, that, you know, and that, when I saw the binder and I remember the folders you had, that was back in the spring meeting, where you said, oh, I've got this and this, yeah.
Yeah,
That we would have a concise, relevant
right,
binder. We wouldn't have to have them necessarily at the meeting,
yeah.
but we'd have them to reference and,
We would have one that we would put like, instead of everybody having a copy
Yep.
of something from the paper, we could have one copy.
yep. And that's why I use the term a syllabus or a table of contents, that we know that we don't need to have it in that 3-ring binder that's hopefully less than 3 inches.
Right.
But we know that there is somewhere, and then probably electronic transmission of it, keep track of it that way.
Yes, and like I said, I'm more than happy to work on that project. I did it for the RDA, so I know it's kind of involved. And then that could be something that we could pass on digitally.
Digitally.
That is on the website or somewhere?
To each member,
Oh,
so that they
Save paper.
have it.
I'm just putting it down.
I mean,
If we could get the stuff to them.
yeah,
It's
Right.
good to have the hard copy, but also have updates.
oh, exactly,
And if you would necessarily turn in the hard copy as you left if you wanted to, but always have the digital
right,
available.
yeah.
Susan, again, will put you on the spot. Would you mind being the sub-chair for that if you got a hold of these ladies? Within the next 3 months, you have a sit down, and I would hope that it wouldn't take you longer than a half hour, just to go through it, you know, adding
Just
everything.
meet in the back.
that.
Yep, absolutely.
Library or whatever back
Yep.
there.
Would you mind being the sub-chair for that? Ms. Hallett, I appreciate
Yes,
you.
I would be happy to do
I still have an envelope for you for PEO, by the way. They came out to the Hickey School, and I said, I got a history for you that I think you'd really like. I need to remember to bring it, is what I need to do, Susan, or just throw it in the mail to you, one or the other. Folks, I have, anything more there on number 4?
I just wanted to mention a couple of things, or at least one thing, or whatever.
Please.
Looking through this binder, but I was going through it, and there is a sheet in here that was more or less a table of contents or whatever of things that should be in the binder, that were typed or whatever. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
pretty old
primitive.
document, but it does list a few things here on it. So I think that's
Great starting point.
a great starting point for the.
Is there a
the
title
binder.
to that document?
It's called Information Packet for the More Effective Administration of Local Preservation Commissions.
I'm just putting down information packet.
It's an information packet, but it was a content, so I think that there was probably a chunk of stuff that came in.
Agreed.
So, I think there is some organization to it already, but it's a lot of the stuff in here has not been called out and called through.
Mhm.
And then another thing which is sort of on the topic, sort of not, but I went out on the Historic Preservation or Historical Society online for the
Mhm.
Wisconsin State Historical Society, and then went into Historic Preservation.
Excellent.
And there is, I hope I have it somewhere. I saved the page on here, which I don't know when I'll have the opportunity to do this, but there is a Historic Preservation Commission training.
Commission
Oh.
training.
And it is all online, and it's all like different chapters, tells how to use the training program. So I think it's everything that's online, but it just has a lot in it that's online, so I hope to go through that at some point here and see. But I did discover that, so the training content is right on the Wisconsin Historical Society's website under Historic Preservation.
Just going to repeat for the record, Wisconsin Historical Society, the subheading would be Historic Preservation,
Commission.
and then they have Commission training,
Historic Preservation Commission training.
and everything's online.
And it's all the things online, so I think it's like per chapter, and then, I think it would be something you want to do on a desktop or something like that, but it sounds like it's, I haven't gone through and looked all of it, but I came across that.
Nice.
And I think there might be, in reading through that, there might be something that will help a little bit with what we really need to have and what we don't need to have.
Mr. Shannon? Oh,
In the past, they have sent, from the Historical Society, they have sent brochures and
Yes.
things of that nature with the training and things. Well, I'm
Okay.
assuming that's
Yeah,
what they're
Gretchen, that
talking.
would be being put on a list though, right, where you get a contact to it?
Yeah,
And that's what I was going to mention. I no longer get those, however.
I
used-
don't think we get them at all.
No, I used to get those very periodically, and I actually went to a couple of the meetings in the past.
Were they interesting?
They're very interesting.
Informative.
Yeah. What's interesting was most historians like this do a lot of talking. So from a I learned much standpoint, no, but I got to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people. And,
That's learning in itself.
And talk about Wisconsin history and what was going on in Darlington and Mineral Point. And
Sure.
so I just think that it's a valuable piece of information that we could have. And I don't
It's
know
not
why
to
we
rule out
don't get.
Reedsburg and Sauk City and other places, which we've talked about previously
Road
too.
trip.
Yeah.
So, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know why we don't get those anymore.
I don't know either, unless we were supposed to provide,
Follow
yeah,
Good
either
contact.
that or maybe dues or something of that nature.
I remember getting something in the mail before, it's been
Long
3
time.
years ago at least, getting notifications of these events or these whatever.
So
It's been a
different,
while.
but similar situation, my crossover is with the Historical Society. I get a lot of contacts simply by title. They, and in due respect, Nick Stanichka had filled in for a couple of years between Jerry Bauer and myself, and he gets some and forwards them to me. But, and I've given them the updated information, but they just have that in their automatic send file. That's something to investigate into, though, maybe of getting onto that. Seeing that we're drawing to about 55 minutes, I have one thing left on the agenda to mention. I've written down 3 dates, and the reason for that, I'm going to follow up with Ms. Oliphant asking it to become regular, and to the point that we could get an agenda, if you guys would like something on it. I know I'd seen Karen and appreciate this, and to revisit it regularly. That if you wanted something on the next agenda, again, I'm hoping to get to you something in a Google Doc that you'd have prior to the fact, but that we would have a hard copy to talk about. Here are my meeting date proposals. I've taken the third Wednesday every 3 months, and I think, Susan, at the last meeting you said let's use that, and 4:30 is the preferred.
I think it was, well, but now we're the 4th again, and we were the 4th last time.
And you weren't here. What happened was I had sent 2
Oh,
emails and we
Okay,
didn't hear back. And so then I stopped in and they said, well, you could go ahead and have it. And I said, we're really not giving
yeah, I
anybody
think
notice.
that's what you said.
And then I said, and she said, how about next week? But could you meet at 4 instead of 4:30 because there's a meeting after us?
Okay.
So I'm asking us to get on the schedule with an hour meeting, 4:30 to 5:25.
On the 3rd Wednesday,
Correct. So
not the
I-
4th Wednesday.
No, 3rd. So our last 2 meetings have been the 4th Wednesday, and it's been about a posting notice.
Okay.
And I need to thank Mr. Perry for being present as well, because he's been very loyal to our
It's
meeting
like I
times.
was gonna say, I am almost always in town the 4th week.
Are you preferring 4th then?
Well, if I am almost always in town on the 4th week, because I always have a meeting on the 4th Thursday
So
of the month.
The 3rd is a
But
tough
I
one.
cannot guarantee that I will be in town the 3rd week of anything typically.
Any objections to switching it to the 4th Wednesday again? Because, so I'm gonna change my date. I've got May 22nd, August 28th, and November 27th as what would be the 4th Wednesday. And I'm coming back to, is that 4:30 time a good one? In case you're curious, May 1st is a Wednesday, that's why.
I know, because the 27th is the 5th,
Yep,
or whatever is
There's
the
a- yep.
5th, there's a 5 in May.
yes, that's your 5th month.
One more time?
I would gladly. I'm proposing May 22nd, August 28th, and November 27th as the 4th Wednesday of a quarterly meeting. And then I'm saying 4:30 is a preferred time. Is that in agreement as well?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to get that to Ms. Oliphant to have us on the
Hang
Oh,
docket,
on,
if you will.
hang on just one
Oh, please.
second here. I want to look at something here because.
Thanksgiving for the 27th?
No, that wasn't what I was.
I mean, it's Wednesday, that's,
The
so-
22nd of May is a Thursday, not a Wednesday. So
Got
it
you.
needs to be, I was like, wait a minute, I've got a meeting on that day.
Okay.
And that's.
21st?
the
What date are you saying for the meeting?
You said Wednesday, May 21st,
Yep.
or 22nd, but the Wednesday is actually the 21st, not the 22nd.
So it should be the 28th of May then, if we're being accurate?
Yes,
Wednesday.
it should be the 20th.
28th of May, 28th of August, 27th of November, 4:30, council chambers. Russ, you are more than willing to help me if we get a display together. You're considering the MC of the program, and you ladies are gonna get together to kind of get a listing of items to put on. I will take the initiative to talk to Ms. Meaden. I will take the initiative to talk to members not present, and then come back with a proposal. Is there anything else that would like to be covered other than reports, requests before adjournment?
Are we going to talk about members next time?
Members will be talked about only in openings or availabilities. If we're going to talk about getting appointments, obviously the mayor is responsible for that.
Okay.
And I'm going to be requesting that be done by August 28th. So we'll talk about it at the next meeting, but it won't be where there's any action taken. Is that appropriate to say? I'd like to check with the people first to see what their interests are, or their schedules allow. That I think is, you know, and I know it sounds 6 months away, but that's kind of how we operate. Anything else that you think of? Please,
We
no?
really don't know when this will take place.
If you wanted a guesstimate, I was thinking May is what I was thinking. But then it's going to be further than that. I see it into summer, Russ. Would you agree?
Yes. And I looked at both birth date and the date of his passing, and both of those dates are either early spring or in the middle of winter.
Well, and having it in hand, we could have it in hand for 2 months and it doesn't hurt us, you know, to go ahead with. But I think it's a very good point that you mentioned. Wait till you get it in hand so you know you got it. It's kind of tough to unveil without. And I think that's kind of the way from the tone and tenor of the letter, would you agree?
Yes.
That's kind of how they operate.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to share that with you, but it was like, as you read this, you go, you're not really going to expedite this thing in any way.
No.
You'll get it when you get it.
Yeah.
Well put.
And, you know, because I had expressed, you know, because we're in the process of setting up date for the unveiling, and he said, I think you should wait until. So I said, all right, I
All
won't press
fi-
forward for a date.
All 5 of us here obviously have an interest in history, but I want to thank the 4 of you for being here. I want to thank as well Mr. Perry for being here. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And second, it does not require a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We did it.
All right.
Folks, thank you.